What's up, all you beautiful people? Welcome to another video. So Nuj and I were just talking off camera for a little bit before we started recording this last conversation, and it revolved around he's been consuming content from a particular content creator, and I was asking him, like, what is it about that content in particular that's intriguing, that's resonating with you? And this is really important, actually, because when you consume content from people, when you are going and trying to learn from somebody else, there's a particular reason for it, right? You're not just trying to collect information and knowledge for the sake of accumulating this vast store of knowledge. It's for a particular purpose. And the more clear that you can be in how you describe and identify that purpose, the more likely you are to find the key that unlocks what you're trying to do. And so in this episode, I break down a framework that I've never actually talked about. I don't think I've ever even thought about it through this lens. So it was really exciting for me to kind of like actively work through in real time a brand new framework to help you understand the deeper lesson here. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of this episode. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. What is useful is, I wrote about this yesterday on Twitter, is that like a problem well defined is half solved, right? And so being able to articulate clearly what is the problem is half the battle. And the reason I was asking you is because fundamentally, when you're describing something that you find interesting about somebody else or about a business or about some idea, you're finding interesting is in its relation to the ability to solve a problem, whether or not you're aware of what that problem is yet that you're trying to solve. So like you watch, say, Tom, and you're like, something about this resonates, and it's insightful, it's interesting, and I want to dive deeper into it to understand it. But you don't just want to. Nobody just gathers information for the sake of gathering it. You gather information for the sake of solving a problem, right? But you don't even necessarily have the words of what the problem is that you're trying to solve, right? And so when I was asking you, and it was like, it took a while for you to get to that point where you could articulate what the thing was. And what's interesting is that by the time that you get to the point where you now know what it is that you were attracted to, now when you watch it back and you pay attention to it, you go, oh, I see that now more directly in relation to the problem that I was trying to solve. So you need to you never go looking for a solution without having a clear problem to solve. Does that make sense? Like this is really important, as like where you're at in your journey of building. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up, is they're collecting information. They're collecting solutions. If you just think about information as solutions, but they don't know what problems to apply them to. It's like you have a ring full of keys, but you don't know a lock to put it towards. And so you think you need to go get more keys. And it's like, no, you don't need more keys. First, let's start with the door that's locked that you're trying to get into. Do you know what door that is? It's right there. Okay. Now we need to find the key for that. We're not just trying to get more keys on the chain. We're looking for that key to unlock that door. Otherwise, you just turn into a janitor with a shit ton of keys on a ring. Then it's like, okay, I'm still stuck because now I have a ton of keys, but I don't really. You're in a room full of doors that are locked. And you think like, problem number one is I need to get out of this room. I'm locked into this room. If you just imagine I'm in this room, it's a circle, and there's a door every 2 feet, and you're trapped in this room, and you're like, I need to get out of this room. Well, it doesn't do you any good just to collect a million keys if you're not then trying those keys towards the door, right? So you have to make a decision and say, okay, I want to get out one of these doors. Which door should I try to get out? Let's focus on that door. Cool. Let's make the key that fits into that door. And a lot of times that's like what it is you have the ability to, maybe this will be a really interesting mental model. So imagine you're in a room full of doors. They're all locked. And above each one of those doors, there's a key that says this is the key to unlocking this door, right? You can't take that key and use it. But you can take that key and you can take it back to the center of the room where you have a key making machine. And you can use that key to make a different key. And then you can use that other key to unlock the door. So the key above the door is me putting out the contents, Tom putting out the content. This is the way that get this door to unlock. Boom. You need to take this and go make your own key out of it. Then you need to take that key and go open the door. But it doesn't do you any good if you just go and you're like, oh, let me make a copy of that key. 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 Next thing you know, you have 20 keys. But it's like, okay, now you still, the goal, what was the goal? The goal was to get out of the room. And so, again, problem well defined is half solved. Like knowing which room you're trying to get out of and what the source is. So that's why now I think, hopefully, having just talked through that little bit that you did about like what is attracting you to Tom's stuff, you can go into it with more intention and be like, that's the key to this door that I'm trying to unlock. How do I help people make identity shifts, not just make physical transformations? Like, what is that identity shift that I went through, that I want other people to go through, that I believe I can guide people through, right? Because it's kind of like the trifecta. It has to be something that you've done, that's something that you want to help people do, and that you can help people do. How do you distill what you've experienced in your life into a story, and then how do you translate that story to other people so that they can go through a similar experience without having to actually live through whatever it is that you live through? That's the great thing about stories. It compresses knowledge and experience, and it gives you a way of handing that to somebody else so that they can get those lessons and learnings without it taking as long as it took you to figure it out, and without exposing yourself to all the shit that you went through, right? And you said something there that's interesting, though, which is, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it is effectively like, is this true? Is this thus thing? Is this the way I interpret it is kind of like, what's this mean? Right? What's the meaning behind the story, and how do I know that meaning is true? Is that truly the meaning of the story? Right? And that's something that maybe what will help mentally frame this, and you know this to a degree, is that like you as the storyteller get to decide the meaning of the story. And the mistake that a lot of people make when they tell a story is they leave it open-ended and they assume that the audience is going to fill in the blank and come up with their own. But it's literally like, what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is like, what's this story supposed to mean? What's the purpose behind it? And you can be explicit and tell people, like, the reason I share this with you is because here's what I want you to get from this. We call that the tie down. But in really great storytelling in the movies, they don't necessarily do that, right? They guide you to a place, and then they trust you to fill in the gaps and come to the same conclusion. And they leave it open-ended enough to say, like, maybe you won't come to the same exact place, and that's okay. But you know for damn sure the storyteller, Christopher Nolan, when he was making the movie, had a meaning in mind, that he said, this is what this means. And so you get to decide that. And I think that's really empowering, just to realize, here's what this story means to me now in this context. Here's how I'm choosing to interpret it. And that's like a really powerful frame too, when you tell people, like, let me tell you the story of like how I went from 80K in debt, struggling, and blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you what that story means to me now. Because it didn't mean that to me. What I'm about to tell you right now about that story is not what the story meant to me then. It's not what it meant to me a year after. It's what it means to me now. And here's how I think that story can actually help you where you are right now. Right? And so you get to be the meaning maker. It's actually maybe one of your most important jobs as a storyteller, is to determine what the story means and guide the story towards that conclusion. Because otherwise you just told a sequence of events and it's kind of like, what do I do with this? It was entertaining, but like, what do I do with this? The meaning is like, here's the reason I gave you this. And I think the reason like people hate shallow, like small talk in elevators and stuff, is because there's no meaning, there's no reason behind it. And so it just feels useless. And if you think about that and just extrapolate it out, it's like, if you tell somebody a story that doesn't have a meaning, then it's just like, oh, this is useless. You wasted my time.